any sparkling to ignite this this whole thing.
And they're quite stable at this stage.
What we call the traditional fuel is very stable. So, but it's also highly toxic. So once ignited, it will be a good fertilizer instead of toxic oxygen.
Right, but that could be another story for solid propellant rockets.
The only mixed propulsion launch vehicle of China is Long March 6. Long March 6, the core stage of the Long March 6 uses liquid propellants, while its four boosters are solid ones, as you mentioned. But you know what Yan Song has mentioned is called a hypergolic propulsion system, which is different from the cryogenic propulsion system. In the cryogenic propulsion system, such as those used in the Long March 7 and 5, the propellants are in very low temperature. But for this Long March 2F, which use a hypergolic propulsion system, the propellants, as Yan Song mentioned, the UDMH and the NTO are worked in room temperature. So it's convenient to use. And also, moreover, you see that it do not need a very specific ignition system. When the NTO meet with the UDMH, they can burn automatically. So that is why it is very convenient use. But honestly speaking, the performance of this hypergolic propulsion system is lower than the cryogenic propulsion system, and also it is not environmental friendly.
I see. But each of them have their own advantages.
Exactly.
So they're still all in use.
You know, that's the Long March 2 series, Long March 3, and Long March 5. All these use the traditional hypergolic propulsion system. So they are already being very practical in utilizing these launch vehicles. Until today, still, most of the satellites were launched into orbit with these series.
Indeed. Practical is the key word here, cost effective.
But
right?
in the future, the new generation launch vehicle, including Long March 5, 6, 7, will play a major role in China's space activities.
Right, good to know, good to know. So the 3 taikonauts, this is live by the way, the 3 taikonauts are in the capsule still reading manuals, I guess, Mr. Xu?
Yeah.
Yes, I think they're still going through the checklist. I think these will be done throughout this whole process. Even after liftoff, they're still going to be holding this thing, so they will be seeing that everything is going smoothly.
And that yellow / gray thing is the luggage, as you earlier described, right?
I would presume that these two big bulky things behind the commander is the parachute package.
Right,
No.
right.
It's not the parachute package. It's some of the other luggage you mentioned for the mission itself, but some also there are some cargoes for the landing. For instance, if there is an emergency landing in a wild place, they need guns. And they need food, they need other water, and
I think
so
this yellow part probably is the raft that you're going to be used
Quite right.
when you land on water.
splash down in the sea.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And also, you know that the position of the center of the mass of the re-entry capsule is also very critical for the safe landing. So it must be well adjusted.
So that it does not tumble when it's landing.
Now we can see clearly the bottom of the rocket with
exactly.
4 engines, right? And we're still waiting for the opening of the middle part of the of the rocket. And this is the command and control center at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
Just on the
Just one, bear with my curiosity. I was always wondering why so many rows at these commanding centers, and each and every one is so busy. What's that all about? It's so has to be so precise that one person for one specific duty.
Exactly. I was there, as I mentioned, 4 years before. So at each monitor, at each seat, there is a person in charge of a certain system.
Yeah.
For instance, as Yan Song have already mentioned, we have the telemetry, telecontrol, and the communication system. Maybe several persons are in charge of this system, and some of in charge of the system communication with the other ground stations, and some of them are in charge of the status, monitoring the status of the astronauts, so they can monitoring the biological parameters of the astronaut by the remote sensing data. And also we have the ground staff from the industry who are in charge of the monitoring the status of the Shenzhou spaceship.
Indeed, as we're talking about this, I believe those ground staff are reaching another crucial mark to the launch. That's almost, yes, That's right, the 30-minute countdown
Yeah.
to the launch, and we can see the countdown clock is there. Okay, we've already passed that mark, so that means we're really close to the launch of the Shenzhou 16 right now. And for more on that, let's cross live to our reporter Wu Lei, standing by at the Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center. Hello, Wu Lei, bring us up to date.
Hello, Pandeng. We are now at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. This is a command and information exchange center for many, flight manned missions as well as lunar and Mars exploration missions. And this time for the Shenzhou 16 mission, as you can see behind me, the Shenzhou 16 crew are now ready in the spaceship, and all the ground team, control team here are still standing by. And I heard many times of the voices of the Beijing copy, the main operator of the dispatch team here at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. They have been talking with different teams, including those in different locations on Earth, and also talking with crew of Shenzhou 15 now in orbit. So after lifting off, the Beijing Aerospace Control Center will take control of the whole monitoring and commanding and information exchange missions with the other teams. So they will closely monitor the flight and other status of the spaceship, and to keep a close eye on the flight status and make sure that the spaceship will dock with below of the Tianhe core module. So this time, Shenzhou 16, for last time, it takes about 6.5 hours for the Shenzhou spacecraft to dock with the Tianhe core module. And this time we will be here and standing here for more information, because we know that every year after the China's Tiangong space station has been operational, every year there will be 2 crewed missions to have a long-term operation of our space station. So every 6 months, there will be a rotation. And today, after about 6.5 hours, Shenzhou 16 crew will enter the Tiangong space station. They will have another historical meeting with the Shenzhou 15 crew. And the 6 astronauts or technonauts will stay in orbit for some days, and then the Shenzhou 15 crew are expected to back on Earth, and the Shenzhou 16 will stay there for about 6 months. So the ground team here, control team, will keep a close eye on the latest about their flight. Pandeng.
Thank you very much, our reporter Wu Lei at the Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center. Now you're watching live footage from the launch tower at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. As we can see, that the middle part of the rocket is appearing now, right, gentlemen?
Yes, what we see now is a video from the camera mounted on the rotational platform.
So yeah, this particular shot is from the camera mounted on the launch tower, rather
yes,
than
on the rotational
drone,
platform.
Right? Yeah.
So you can see that the platform is leaving the payload fairing.
Yeah.
So you can see there are grid fins folded on the payload fairing, which
Right.
is used to stable the emergency escape system.
Those are the folded things are kind
the
of a
grid
stabilizer.
fins. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
right, the
You can
fins,
call
right.
that stabilizers.
Yeah, stabilizers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, that's the emergency escape system is composed not only the tower, but also we have rocket engines on the payload fairing. So you know that after liftoff, the first separation will be the jettisoning of the emergency escape tower. After that, if anything wrong happened, will based on the rocket engine, the solid rocket engines on the payload fairing.
Now we can see the whole rocket, a Long March 2F.
Yeah. So the Long March 2F have a very long history. It is based on the Long March 2E rocket. The Long March 2E is the first launch vehicle in China which have strap-on boosters, the side boosters. And the capability of the Long March 2E is also, it is very interesting that first it was designed for commercial market, for launching the satellite from other countries, because the capability can reach to 8.8 tons. So it was used to improve and then into this Long March 2F launch vehicle in 1990s. And the capability of the Long March 2F is different because it has two versions. One is used for launch this Shenzhou spaceship, which has an emergency escape system. So the capability is about 8.1 metric tons.
Indeed, and we can see that white blue building a little bit far away from the launch
that's
tower. That's the assembly.
Vehicle assembly building, VAB.
Yes. And once assembled, the rocket, the combination to be precise, will be transported to the launch tower through
1.5 kilometers away.
Right.
And it is very interesting, you know, that Shenzhou 7 and together with the Long March 2F Y17 launch vehicle is in this building now, Shenzhou 17.
Oh, right.
Yes. So this combination of the Shenzhou 17 and the Long March 2F Y17 launch vehicle is used as a backup of this Shenzhou 16.
Well, talking about redundancy, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good picture that you can see the vertical assembly tower and the real that in between the launch pad and
Right.
the tower. So that is what we call a triple rib vertical to frozen, what we call frozen the technical parameters of the rocket. So it's, if you vertically assemble the rocket, vertically launching is the theoretically less troubleshooting status for the rocket itself.
And the diameter of the payload fairing is about 3.8 meters. And also, as I mentioned, there is another version of the Long March 2F, which have a larger payload fairing with a diameter of 4.2 meters, which is used to launch the Tiangong 1 and the Tiangong 2 space laboratories. So it has two versions, because you know that in that missions, we don't need the ensure the safety of the astronauts. It's unmanned, so some of the emergency escape systems are omitted, so the capability of the launch vehicle can reach to 8.6 metric tons.
Right.
But interestingly, this is the only thing that's launched from Jiuquan for the ground for the station for the space station. The rest of the segments, including the cargoes, the Tianhe, the Wentian and Mengtian, are all launched from Hainan site.
Is that the same story to Tianzhou cargo vessel?
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. All of these station construction as well as the cargoes are from Hainan launch site.
And the latitude of this Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is about 40 degrees. So that is the reason why we choose the inclination of our Tiangong space station. Inclination means that the angle between the orbital plane of the Tiangong and the equator. So we choose 41.5 degrees as the inclination of our orbit. This is the major reason, because the latitude of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is about 40 degrees. And also there are other advantages. As we have already discussed, the climate of the Jiuquan Satellite Center is very dry here.
Dry.
So in most of the days, the weather is fine. And also, you know that along the trajectory of the Long March 2F, if anything wrong happened, in most cases, the emergency landing will happen in the mainland of China. So that will be easy for the rescue teams.
Now, speaking to CGTN, former NASA astronaut Donald Thomas shared his thoughts on China's space development program and explains why everyone works as a team in space.
China's space industry has changed so much in the last 3 years. What have you been looking at?
Yeah, I've been carefully watching the Chinese space program probably for the last 10 years. When the U-2 rover was on the moon, that's when I started watching, and I've just watched the growth of it, and the accomplishments have amazed me. Particularly Chang'e 5, bringing back some lunar soil, you know, totally successful mission. And I've watched the manned spaceflight program has been so rapid. That has really impressed me, how quickly they've developed in building of the Tiangong space station.
On the ground, there are geopolitical tensions. Will that affect international cooperation in space?
I'm all for peaceful purposes of space, and that's what I want to see. I've seen the competitive part of space during the space race. I've seen the cooperative part, and I prefer the cooperative, because even though we have political differences down here on Earth, in space, we work together and we have friendships. We've been working, the United States, have been working with the Russians for 30 years or more on the International Space Station. And even though politically on the ground we are hitting heads, in space we're a team.
Now, this is the live footage from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, the weather reading here. And also a little bit more updates from the international attention. Elon Musk, CEO of SpaceX, says China's space program, I'm quoting now, is far more advanced than most people realize. Musk made remarks in response to a post on Twitter by Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield. In a tweet, Hadfield cited Wu Weiren, chief designer of Chinese lunar exploration program, who forecast a Chinese taikonaut on the moon by the year 2030. So, gentlemen, China's lunar program. So, the timeline is quite clear now. It's by the year 2030. So, hopefully, it will be a little bit earlier than that, maybe.
Hopefully. I think Professor Yang has mentioned that we have developed a new generation capsule that is capable of containing 6 to 7 astronauts at one time. And also we have launch vehicles and capabilities. There are many means to go to the moon. As the American astronaut mentioned about the Chang'e missions, we are taking samples back to Earth. That is just a miniature process of the manned mission, because if you can take samples back to Earth, enlarge that, you can take a man to Earth, to the moon and back. So that is the whole demonstration process for the manned mission. And I'm quite confident that with the technologies of in-orbit configurations and docking rendezvous, the moon is not so far.
Right, and obviously we need a larger rocket, right, Professor?
Mr. Pandong, you know that yesterday during the press conference of the Shenzhou 60 mission, Mr. Lin Xiqiang mentioned that we will walk on the moon before 2030. That is very, very exciting news.
Yeah.
So we confirm the schedule. We are confident about this because that as we've already discussed, many of the technologies used on the new generation launch vehicle and the new generation spaceship are based on the current spacecraft. For instance, the 5-diameter launch vehicle, that's the core module. The core stage of the Long March 5 is with a diameter of 5 meters. So it means that if we use this 5-meter diameter, we can use most of the infrastructure utilized for the Long March 5 series in this manufacturing of the Long March 10. So that will be one of the very important advantage of developing this lunar launch vehicle. Moreover, you see that currently, as we have already discussed, the new generation launch vehicle, Long March 5, 6, 7, use the rocket engine called YF-100 series, which have a thrust about 120 tons. So this engine is also improved with the technologies that it can be smaller. And with this improvement, 7 engines can mount it on the 5-diameter stage. So it can have a very large thrust. And if we mount 3 these kind of 5-diameter core stages together, it will form a new launch vehicle with a liftoff mass of more than 200 metric tons, and with a liftoff thrust about 2,700 metric tons. So this will be big enough to send a spacecraft to the moon with a mass more than 27 metric tons. So with these kind of launches, we can send the spaceship to the moon and the lunar module to the moon, and they will dock on the lunar orbit and then conduct a walk on the moon.
And also on Monday, after that press conference announcing China's lunar program timeline, I also see that China's Manned Space Authority have opened to the whole society, calling for designs of a lunar rover, right?
Yes, I think lunar rovers are what we call it, probably robotic missions. As we have already seen in the Chang'e mission, we have from Chang'e 1 all the way to Chang'e 5, and that will continue to Chang'e 6 and 7. That has already been approved by the State Council for implementation. So the Chang'e mission is the prelude of the manned mission, and that design of facilities needs to be coherent with the manned mission in the future.
Indeed. Now let's get back to Earth a little bit and focusing on the rocket. Another crucial mark is about to come up, I believe, as the taikonauts are still preparing
It's
for
about
the
15
launch.
minutes.
Yes, we're approaching the 15-minute countdown to the launch. We can see the countdown clock at Command Center. Now it's the 15-minute countdown. We've passed that crucial mark. So we can see now the launch tower is fully opened.
Yep.
But I can still see that the rocket is still held by some kind of arms, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can see still some arms are very close to the fuselage of the core stage.
And let's take a closer look at the site, and let's cross live to our reporter Sun Ye standing by at very close to the launch tower. Sun Ye, bring us up to date.
明白。
Hey there, Pendant. Again, we are 1.5 kilometers from that launch complex, and we'll see the rocket itself. It's almost free of all its tethers, all its link to the ground, and right now it's almost standing free, and that means it's almost ready to go. As you said, we are minus 15 minutes from that launch. We heard the Zero commander say all of those things, including he's asking all the people to evacuate from that launch area, and we've seen cars, the final batch of cars getting away from the launch pad. It means we're really close to the launch, and we've been talking to experts from the rocket system, from the spaceship system. Everything is ready, everything is set, but even though the people have been evacuated, actually not everything can be moved away so close from the launch pad. And now I have actually a small viewing tip for you. Now 50 meters, just 50 meters from that launch pad, there is a tree, and for the last 25 years it has withstood fires, withstood burns from the rocket launch, and every year afterwards it is reborn. And people here from the launch center say this really showcased the tenacity, the spirits of this launch center, really also of China's manned space development, that tenacity that they will also carry on into their future missions. So in a few minutes, in 15 minutes actually, if you can take your eyes off the taikonauts, if you can take your eyes off the rocket and the spaceship, go look for that tree. But for now, everything here, from what we see, what we've heard, they are ready, they are set for the launch, and we will wait for that and see it with you. Pandang.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Sun Ye at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. So, gentlemen, we can see that a convoy of vehicles are now leaving the launch tower site. That means we're really in the final stage to the launch, right?
We must count each of the person are not missed.
Right.
So that is really important for the ensure not only the safety of the astronauts, but also ensure safety of our ground staff.
So all those technicians, ground staff, assistants we see earlier helping the taikonauts or checking out the equipment, they have all left.
Yeah.
15 minutes and 1.5 kilometers. That's the clearance of the launch. And also there are bunkers underneath. There's some assistance helping the astronauts for the final preparation. They will leave, I think, just shortly before 5 minutes. These are last people. They will be hiding in the bunker. They will not leave the scene.
There will be no time to
they have
travel
no time to
1.5
travel
kilometers
from away. Yes.
Right.
So they will hide in the bunker, but that is the whole process. The personnel will leave 15 minutes just before the launch.
Right.
You can see that the two astronauts is still reading the menu.
Right. Now we're about 11 minutes to the launch of the Shenzhou 16. And they're confirming the estimated ignition time, right?
Yes, what we call this is a zero launch window.
Okay.
Because it has a very strict requirement. Because this launch is not an independent one. The object, the destination will be the Tiangong space station. So the basic requirement is to that when the Shenzhou spaceship comes into orbit, it must be in the same orbital plane with the Tiangong space station. So this is a very strict requirement to our launch vehicle. So we mastered this zero launch window technology on the Shenzhou 8 mission during in 2011. But today we furtherly improved the technology from the zero launch window to narrow launch window. Because you know that we have some design margin, so the capability of the launch vehicle is stronger than needed. So we can use this design margin to expand the launch vehicle from within 1 second to several seconds. So this is another improvement from the zero launch window to the narrow launch window.
Well, it has to. Every second matters in space program, right? Because for common people like me, it's just just a click of the clock's arm, but it will make whole difference in space, right?
It's quite critical. That if the orbit is not accurate enough, that the propellants in the Shenzhou spaceship is limited. So if the orbit is not accurate enough, it will has no chance or miss the chance to dock with the Tiangong space station. They do have this kind of examples in other countries. You see, during the maiden flight of the Starliner spaceship made by Boeing, because of it missed a very critical step of the ignition, so it missed a chance to dock with the International Space Station. This do happen before. So that is the reason why we must confirm the accuracy of the orbital parameters before we announce the success of the launch.
Look at those audience at the side.
Spectators,
They're
yes.
waiting. They're waiting for that a big moment.
You may notice that from this video we can see that at this moment still the face window of the helmet is still open now, so it is not necessary to protect themselves. But several seconds before the launch, the 3 astronauts will close their helmet. So this IVA spacesuit can provide the second protection to them to the very fatal vacuum condition.
Right. So you're watching live footage from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. This is inside the capsule, the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft.
The liftoff thrust of the Long March 2F is about 600 metric tons. So it's a very powerful launch vehicle. As I have mentioned, the mass of the Shenzhou spaceship is about 8.1 metric tons. So it is a very big spacecraft, and the launch vehicle will work for about 10 minutes, both the first and the second stage, and then it will entering the orbit maybe at the eastern coast of China, very close to Qingdao.
Right, and once they are in the outer space, they're waiting for that called fast docking process.
Exactly.
This time, what does fast docking mean? What is a slow docking anyway?
Well, slow docking, normally we had docking that took more than 20 hours. Once you, like Professor Yang mentioned, that you have to have the right inclination. That's the orbital plane. The inclination means that's you're traveling on the right track. And then there's an element of the altitude. You have to go to the right altitude to catch up with the station. The station is traveling at 7.6 kilometers per second. That is very high speed. And you have to travel in such a way that you have to maneuver and dock with the station. That all the element plays very important.
Gentlemen, I think the Shenzhou 15 crew
Yeah.
are now watching the upcoming launch from the space station.
They are watching the live coverage.
Yeah, it's on your right, on your screen's right side, and so we've got live footage from 2 so different places. One's on Earth and one's in space.
Traveling at 6.6.
We can achieve this because we have the Tianlian data relay satellite.
Okay, so
Now,
it's a two-way system,
two-way
right?
video transfer.
Yeah, so that's why we can see live streaming from inside the China space station right
Exactly.
now. So I believe with this, the fast docking, how long it will take this time?
Roughly, fast docking is roughly 6 hours.
6 hours.
I think,
so let's say in a little bit more than 6 hours.
Yes, I think this
the
evening,
3 taikonauts inside the China space station will meet 3 new colleagues.
They'll meet for dinner.
In space.
So the fast rendezvous and docking raise a very strict requirement to the launch window. That several days before we just conducted an orbit maneuver to raise the orbit of the Tiangong space station. This can be recognized as a very important preparation for today's launch, because that's the fast rendezvous docking can only be satisfied when the relative position of the 2 spacecraft has meet some requirements. So this is the reason we conducted the orbit maneuver of the Tiangong space station, and we just launched the Shenzhou 16 today.
This
Right.
is the view you never see before because it's used by the
drone.
The
The
drone
drone,
to film.
From a very safe distance, right?
Yeah, they
and
have
you're
strict
watching live
regulations,
footage from the Jiuquan satellite. launch
we can have
center.
a-
This is the launch tower. It's fully open now. We can see the Long March, the combination of the Long March 2F rocket and the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft.
Now-
Now we're about to reach another crucial mark.
T minus 5 minutes.
Yeah, T minus. Yeah, very, in a professional way. 5 minutes to the launch.
分钟准备，各号注意，
Right, we've passed the 5-minute countdown to the launch. T minus 5.
And
So the launch will take place at 09:31 Beijing time. That's 01:31 GMT. Yes, Professor.
and the onboard computer of the Long March 2F rocket will be in charge of the control of the whole vehicle after several seconds.
So can we say it's kind of an automated process?
Yes,
Okay.
because you know
But,
that
but human can intervene at any time.
we-
override?
we have the remote control system, but at this moment, maybe after several seconds, the onboard computer will in charge of everything.
Right.
So you can see these two black holes by the newcomers. Those
Yes.
are two windows.
Right.
That's privileged to these two newcomers.
Okay.
The commander does not see the window, but these two new guys will see the window. But it's
For the
still-
view, right? That's
for the view,
view.
yes. But it's still black because of outside is the fairing.
Yeah.
But once you deploy the fairing, they will see the whole Earth. I mean,
Oh, you see, look, they have already closed their helmet.
Okay. Helmet.
So
Helmet closed
It
for
forms the
all
airtight
three
sealing.
tachonauts.
Airtight sealing.
So it's another redundancy for safety purpose. Yeah. Because the cabin is already have a life support system because of the oxygens and temperatures all adjusted.
They're
But-
holding hands.
Yeah.
The
Working as a
atmosphere
team.
control.
Best wishes for this mission.
I think it's the commander giving these two some courages.
Yeah.
And it is
And
very
the commander, Jing Haipeng, is 56 years
56.
old now, and the other two colleagues of his are
36.
all 36
Yes.
years old. So this is kind of a generational relay race in the
hand
Twenty
over
years,
Chinese.
20-year gap.
Yeah, 20-year gap. But let's remember, Mr. Jing Haipeng made it very clear that there is no generational gap between them. Yeah.
各号注意，我是令号。
But when he mentioned this, there is.
Yeah.
T minus 3 minutes and counting.
Psychologically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Then I think the last
3
guy
minutes
is already-
countdown to the launch.
Last guy from the tower is already in the bunker, so everybody's clear from the tower.
Yeah. Waiting for the big moment. The
And
sky
next you
is really
can see
clear.
that the rotational arms will leave the vehicle.
There's still a reddish small arm that is still providing some.
Connections.
Yeah.
And that
connections.
arm
leave
will
yeah.
evacuate in last seconds,
Just-
maybe
yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Minute, just
Because
one.
there are some
within 1 minute.
plug-ins, it will be unconnected from the launch vehicle.
Right.
Oh,
See
you
these
can
two.
see.
yes,
Okay.
The reddish.
Yeah,
arm.
this is the last remaining arms that's still
These
holding the
rotational
rocket.
arms.
And then once these two leaves, you can see that the rocket is standing on 4 small pins. So that is the stability of the rocket. You have to keep its very centralized gravity.
The cables on these arms are connected to the onboard computer of the launch vehicle.
You two gentlemen are already industrial veterans. Are you still excited about this? Because right now my heart is
Every
pumping
time we are
faster.
nervous.
You are.
Yeah.
Every time.
Every time it's very nervous.
You've seen this too much, I thought.
Exciting and nervous.
Right. The 3 tachonauts are ready. The launch of the Shenzhou 16 manned space mission is imminent at the moment. 09:31 is the launch time for this mission. You're watching live footage from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwestern China. This is live footage from inside the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft. The 3 tachonauts are ready to go.
It seems that the 3 crew members are much more calm than us.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they're well trained.
各号注意，我是
1 minute
令号
countdown
1分钟
to
准
the
备，
launch.
各号注意，1分钟准备。
1 minute countdown to the launch.
And the arm will be open.
50秒，
Anytime. Yes.
50 seconds to the launch.
See, it's separated.
40秒，40秒。
Now, the rocket is in standalone mode, ready for launch and ignition.
Now, at this stage, the rocket is on its own.
30秒，
The navigation's
30 seconds to go.
So This is video from the drone.
20秒，20
Never
秒
been seen this.
10
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
点火，
Ignition.
预备，
Lift off.
起飞，70，动90，310分，113秒，488动6秒，70，动90，310分，113秒，488动6秒，程序完。
Pitch over means that it has already changed its direction from vertical direction to the
To a certain
eastwards.
angle, right? We can also see that from a
to
far
the
shot.
eastwards.
Yes.
新山 USD 雷达跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。
This will
Telemetry.
be
The Shenzhou 16.
So this is a video mount with from the camera mounted on the core stage,
Right.
and this is an infrared image.
You're watching live footage on the launch of the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft to China Space Station.
And the next critical step will be the jettisoning of the emergency escape tower.
Right.
Again, this is
We
infrared.
can see a clear angle change, right?
Yeah. So it's flying eastwards.
So will there be still some adjustment of the angle
Yeah.
to the
Flight direction.
41.5 degree as you earlier mentioned?
Yeah. So the inclination. So this is you can see the two of the boosters.
There are 4 in total,
There are
right?
4.
Yeah.
So this is there are two on this
Yeah,
side.
just from one side. Yeah.
should be able to see it when separation.
Right.
So the emergency escape tower will be jettisoned soon.
You can see some light sparks on the top of the rocket when it's injected.
Right. And on the right side of the
It's,
screen is
three-
the simulation. of
3D simulation, but it
Simulation,
is
yeah.
driven by the real data.
The real data, of
which
course.
means that the position and the okay,
Okay, now,
jettison.
the jettison of the escape tower.
Yeah. And the next step will be separation of the 4 boosters.
Right. Let's wait
Great.
for those step by step.
Followed by separation of the fairing.
The G forces acting on the bodies of the astronauts are increasing.
遥测正常，东风飞
We can see the burning mark
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
engines, right? So right now is really high into the atmosphere,
Okay,
right?
separated.
Okay, separation of the 4 engines.
入推器分离，
And the core stage is also separated.
Core stage separated.
1、2级分离。
So this is again the infrared image. We can see the very clear the 4 boosters and the first stage.
They've already separated from
Now it's already on the working of the second stage.
second stage.
As I mentioned, it has 1 main engine and 4 vernier engines.
Right.
They
They
are
say
just
they
talking.
feel so comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking. And we
I
can-
think they've done the max Q, which is the maximum gravity.
They've already done that.
Yeah, they've already done it.
So you can see this is a camera from the video mounted on the second stage.
Second
And-
stage.
And
This
this
is
is
inside the
a
fairing.
camera in the payload fairing. And the next critical step will be the jettisoning of the payload fairing. Okay,
It's all done.
It's just
already done.
Yeah.
Now they can see the side scenes
They can see
from the
outside,
window.
Yes, yeah, they can see it outside.
Yes. So are they out of the atmosphere right now?
Exactly.
So can we say they're already in outer space?
Yes.
You're watching live footage from inside the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft. The 3 taikonauts are now in outer space, heading towards the China Space Station. On the left side of the screen, we can see the camera mounted still on the
On course stage.
core stage,
The second
outside
stage.
the core stage.
So this is the working of the second stage of the Long March 2F rocket vehicle. Still, on the left of screen is the infrared videos.
Right.
And the second stage of the Long March 12 worked much longer than the first stage because it only has one main engine.
Right.
With a thrust about 80 tons.
This is the image of the stage, the second stage engine.
The main engine of the second stage is fixed, and you can see that the small engine on the left corner, the small Vernier engine can change its direction to control the trajectory.
Okay, but the main engine is fixed its angle.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
propulsion purpose.
Yeah, right.
And usually we separate the payload fairing at the altitude of about 100 kilometers. So at this moment, according to the definition,
Now we can see again live streaming from inside the China Space Station.
they are watching the live,
Yeah.
live coverage.
They're getting
Yeah.
closer.
They're getting closer and closer to their colleagues at this moment.
And also on the right bottom of the screen, we can see the 3D animation, and also you can see the data link between the ground stations and the launch vehicle.
Okay, so three of them.
Three of-
these are from
stations.
Three
this
ground
simulation.
stations.
3 ground stations.
At this moment, you're constantly changing.
Right.
So they are experiencing the
It's also a
G-forces.
relay race between different ground.
They have a relay.
Yeah,
Downstream, yes.
yes.
And this is a video on the rear part of the second stage.
It's still working at this moment,
It's
right?
still
Still
working.
burning.
And the next critical step will be the shutdown of the main engine. But the,
Oh, we can see the Earth, right?
Yes.
yes, it's very bright.
So they're now in outer space, and the second stage engine is still at work. What's the next stage aim? They're adjusting the position angles or somewhat?
Adjusting its trajectory.
Trajectory.
You can see, although it is in daytime, but the sky is black because they were already in outer space
Yeah.
in a vacuum condition.
So the rocket engine will take them to the right velocity and right altitude,
Right.
and right orbit before there is a separation between the engine and the capsule itself. And then the final success will be indicated by the deployment of the solar array.
Right. Wow.
They are very relaxed.
Yes.
The Shenzhou 15 crew are relaxed and happily waiting for their colleagues. But we can also see that the 3 taikonauts in Shenzhou 16 spacecraft, they're also relaxed because they've well trained for this process.
Yes.
And so far, it's been a smooth process.
Mr. Dr. Zhu Yangzhu and Dr. Gui Haichao, at this moment, they are already qualified to be an astronaut because they are already above the common line. About
Common
the,
line.
Yeah.
It's
The
a
common line is,
professional jargon.
the altitude is 100 kilometers.
Okay.
So that is the artificial definition of the border of the outer space.
Right. The final frontier, right?
Yep.
Named under von Karman,
Right.
the renowned scientist.
So what about staying time? What if someone just passes that mark and re-enters?
I think
Okay,
there's a
the main
shutdown.
engine shut down.
Second stage engine is now shut down.
No, still the 4 Vernier engines are working.
Okay. The main engine.
Main
Main
engine
engine
is
has
already
shut
shut
down.
down.
Which means they have reached the velocity and the altitude already.
And the Vernier engine will do some very precise adjustment of the trajectory.
Still, we're watching live footage from the camera mounted on the second stage. This is live stream from outer space.
Yeah. And after shutdown of the Vernier engines, next will be the separation of the launch vehicle and the Shenzhou spaceship.
On the left, you can see the folded solar array. This is the stack of the solar array that has been folded in on the Shenzhou spaceship.
So at this moment, the cabin is still powered by batteries or what?
Yes, it's
Batteries.
powered by batteries.
Storage batteries.
Storage batteries. And once the solar panel is opened, then it can generate power by its own.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can see
Yeah, the
on
ground
the
stations
3D
are still
animation.
tracking the flights.
Yeah, from the 3D animation at the bottom right, you can see still that the 4 Vernier engines are still working
Right.
to adjust the trajectory.
So when Professor Yang mentioned the Vernier engine, this is the process that take full advantage of the launch vehicle, because the Shenzhou itself has its own adjustment system, but it's to take full advantage of the launch vehicle competence, and then after separation, the Shenzhou is on itself for adjustment.
Oh, they're still definitely watching in the same position. So yes, they're relaxed, but they're still anxious to
They will meet their colleagues
see the
this
success
afternoon.
of the launch at least, right?
Yes.
Well, we're also still anxiously waiting for that moment.
Okay, shut down.
Separation.
二级油机关机，团线分离。
Now the engine has left the spacecraft.
Yes.
So the
and,
spacecraft is on its own now.
and the next step will be unfolding of the solar panels.
Right.
That means the launch vehicle has done its job.
It has now completely left the spacecraft. Its job is done.
The March 2F is done. It's
And
finished.
next, we will measure the precise orbital parameters of the Shenzhou spaceship. And once it was confirmed that it is accurate enough, we can announce the success.
Right.
Now astronauts are feeling microgravity environment. They can throw up their pin and they're floating.
We just heard the voice, the Changjiang 3, which means the space tracking ship.
Now, on the left-hand side are the Shenzhou 16 crew, and on the right side of the screen are the Shenzhou 15 crew. They're about to meet soon, once the docking is completed, and they will do a handover, right?
Yeah, in orbit.
Yeah, and eventually the Shenzhou 15 crew will go back to Earth.
Prepare meal for 6.
You just heard that, right?
Yes.
That's crucial for a long trip, right?
You know that the Mr. Deng Qingming from the Shenzhou 15 crew is already a grandfather.
Right.
Yeah. His daughter is also working in our space field.
So it's also a generational thing. Yeah.
Now we're looking at the solar panel that's ready to be deployed.
We can see clearly the Earth is
Yes.
now, at least for us, it's on the right-hand side of the Shenzhou 16 spacecraft.
Yeah. So I believe this is a video from the camera mounted on the propulsion module of our Shenzhou spaceship. So you can see the solar panels.
So this camera will be there, right?
Yeah. And you know that transferring signals with videos need a very high capacity.
Is it more constrained by bandwidth or other
Exactly.
transmission?
So there are coordinations between NERSC and the ITU to get the compatible radio frequency.
Now, the solar panel is unfolding.
Unfolding very slowly. Great.
Now it's fully unfolded from what we can see. But we still need confirmation from ground control. The Shenzhou 50 crew inside the China Space Station are watching closely. They've been watching in almost the very same positions, right?
北京明白。
Now Beijing
太阳帆板展开正常。
solar panel unfolded as planned. I just heard confirmation from the Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center. So the Beijing Center has taken over.
Now the command has changed from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center to the Beijing Flight Control Center. But
And
still,
it will be so.
yeah, but still
in the rest of the
announcement
mission.
of the success will be in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
太阳帆板驱动正常。
Great. The antenna for the data relay satellite has already been unfolded.
And the solar panel, I just heard the solar panel is working
Normally,
as planned.
we
Yeah,
have
normally.
we just heard the voice that the driver, we call that SADA, work very normally. The solar array drive assembly called SADA work normally.
That's the arm of the
Right.
the solar array.
Yeah. You have so many abbreviations and jargons in your profession. This is a kind of a NASA left tradition.
The SADA has been used widely in the community.
Okay, let's report the space tracking ships called Changjiang, which means the Yuanwang space tracking ship, has already sent the measurements of the orbital parameters.
But that means that it's already in the Pacific
Pacific,
Ocean.
yes, exactly.
It's above the Pacific. It's outside China already.
So,
16
two
16号，我是北京。 通报座舱大气环境及身体状况。
Two teams. One's expecting to meet the other, and the other is watching closely on the successful launch, the announcement of a successful launch. So we're still in kind of, technically speaking, we're still in the launch process, right? Until that announcement of a successful launch.
As I mentioned, we must confirm that the orbital parameters is accurately mapped. Only at this circumstances we can announce it
北
is
京
a
6点
success.
半，神舟16号经地面确认，座舱环境正常，可以打开面窗。
Now they can open their helmets now.
Yeah, because
so the
they
cabin
must first monitor the
environment is
parameter of
normal.
the atmosphere. There is do have what we call life support system, environmental control and life support system inside the cabin.
You can see the right side, the window is very bright.
Yeah.
So
They're facing sunlight,
yeah.
basically.
There's-
Or the reflection of sunlight from the Earth.
Reflection of the Earth, yes. On the other side, it's also quite bright. I think it's they can enjoy a good view after they lift the helmet.
Right.
You can see Mr. Zhu Yangzhu on the far side.
Yeah.
Just near his seat, there is a button to cut the parachutes.
Oh, really? Where's the button exactly?
The button during the landing, Mr. Zhu Yangzhu will be in charge of cutting the parachute.
I see, because he's the flight engineer, right?
No, because he is 02.
Oh, 02.
各号注意，我是北京。根据北京实时轨道与遥测数据监视判断，神舟16号飞船已进入近地点高度200公里，远地点高度360.8公里，倾角41.3度，周期1小时30分钟的预定轨道。飞船太阳慢慢展开，工况正常，航天员状态良好，后续工作按正常飞行计划实施。
Professor, you've got your parameters now. What's your reading?
According to the announcement of the commander in Beijing Flight Control Center, the orbital parameters are very accurate. I believe that next the commander in the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center will announce the result of the launch.
And I also heard readings on the apogee and perigee.
Yeah.
Why is that? That's kind of crucial indicators for a right
Very,
orbit?
very crucial. Actually speaking, the perigee and apogee it must be lower than our space station. According to the features of orbital dynamics, the lower it is, the faster it rotates. So it is a chasing vehicle chase our Tiangong space station. Within 6 hours, they will meet their colleagues.
So
6
the,
hours, a fast docking process. Yeah.
So we can hear the apogee and the perigee is 360 something. The station is 370 something. So that is just below the station that can catch up at the right point.
下面请酒泉卫星发射中心主任、发射指挥部周立平指挥长宣布发射结果。
Now we're waiting for the official announcement of the result of the launch of the Shenzhou 16 mission.
Officials, experts, and comrades. According to the flight data and report from Beijing Aerospace Center, the Long March 2 Y-16 carrier rocket has sent Shenzhou 16 manned spacecraft to the preset orbit. The solar panel has been unfolded successfully and is functioning well. I now declare the launch of Shenzhou 16 mission a complete success.
Now, this just came in. China has just officially announced the successful launch of the Shenzhou 16 manned spacecraft with 3 taikonauts on board. For more on that, let's cross live to our reporter Wu Lei at Beijing Aerospace Command and Control Center. Wu Lei, now the Beijing Center has taken over the flight control. Bring us up to date.
Hello, Pandeng.